Hi everybody, and a very warm welcome back to the painting channel. And today I'm revisiting a subject I did about 4 years ago, and that is painting simple figures in our paintings and our landscapes. So without further ado, let's roll that intro. Let's see what happens. Hi everybody, and a warm welcome back. Now, as I said just now, I am going to be looking back at a video that I did 4 years ago. I will put the link to it up there so that you can watch it if you haven't already. But many people, over 74,000 people, have watched this little 10-minute video and watch me explaining or trying to demonstrate and show how you can paint simple figures in the landscape. Now, the sound on that video was appalling. The lighting was atrocious, and I had more ums and ahs in it than I cared to remember or wish to remember. So I felt that it would be nice to maybe do another video based on that one, and hopefully you guys can get a little bit more from it. So without further ado, let's get on, and I'll catch each and every one of you at the other end. Hi guys, and a very warm welcome back to the painting channel. Now, a little disclaimer before I go any further, and that is that if my voice sounds a little odd to a few of you today, it's possibly because I'm just getting over a very heavy cold. Indeed, yesterday I wasn't even sure if I'd be able to make a video this week for you. This morning I woke up, I felt a little bit more inspired to do so, so here we are. And without further ado, let's see what happens. I'm going to be showing you a few of the different ways that you can add people and figures and situations to landscapes that may otherwise be quite boring on their own, that might need that extra little bit of an ingredient. Or indeed, if it's a street scene with lots of people in, you're not quite sure how to draw them and how to work those into your scene. So hopefully this little video will give you some idea. So all I'm going to be using, and I've got the palette here. This is my normal palette. It's really dirty. For this week, I haven't actually decided to clean it up at all. I'm just going to use a lot of this in the demonstration. So there was little point in cleaning it. I have a 6B or 4B. I can never remember. But a 2mm is what I meant to say. Faber-Castell mechanical pencil. I have some white gouache to hand. And I'm using some fairly cheap, this is a little bit of old gummed paper I've found, and it's an old cotton one, so it is just wood pulp. It's not great quality, although it is quite a nice heavy poundage. But that is on a block which has long given up its glue. It's starting to come apart and all sorts of things. But I just wanted to play around. Now the emphasis on the film is on the painting itself, because the colors that I'm using are really quite random. As always, I'm just using a few select rosemary red dot brushes. These are from the series, as I say, Red Dot, and they are just a couple of small rounds, a number 5, number 6. I don't actually need both of those. One will be quite enough, so let's put one away. So we've got a number 5 and we have a number 2 rigger. That's all I'm going to be using for this demonstration. And all I'm going to be doing is just giving you some ideas as I go along on creating different figures in your landscape and the way that I approach this subject when I get to it. Now let's go back to this brush then, and let's just pick up some color. And first and foremost, I'm just going to be tapping a few heads in. A lot of my figures will be just little taps like this, little suggestions, keeping them spaced apart. One thing you do need to bear in mind, that your figures need to be on almost the same level as an ideal from the point of view of perspective. But from the point of view of creating the shapes of the figures, then let your I'm sorry about all these aircraft. I've been waiting for the aircraft to go over. But anyway, I'm just diving into some simple colors, and all I'm doing is some little blobs and taps with my paintbrush. like this. And I'm creating people right in front of your eyes. Now, one thing I would say, and these are just random colors, random effects, nothing, as I showed you just now in my paint pot or my palette, there's just nothing there to sort of suggest anything else, but little groups of figures. That's all I'm doing, just picking up the brush, bringing it down, and blobs, little shapes, little taps. That's all this is. And the idea being that your brain will connect the dots. Because we know the human form so well, then when we see somebody walking toward us, we automatically recognize them as a human being. And if we see a picture of something, even if it's a photograph with very, very distant figures in our scene, we still understand who and what they are, and we identify those as people. Nothing less, nothing more. We can make some very, very simple, crude shapes like this. But the fact is that it's got a head, it's got what appears to be a couple of pair of shoulders, pair of shoulders, and a bit of body and a couple of legs at the bottom there, and it's a figure. Head's a little bit big. Let's just do that. Just change the things, leave little spaces between. Whatever it is, I'm just making shapes on a white piece of paper, nothing more. I have no reference in front of me. I am just literally taking colour off the palette and just tapping the brush in here and there to create some different forms, just like that. Your brain, as I said, does all the rest for me, nothing more. Now, if you were going to draw figures, and again, people get so obsessed about creating a nice head and a head, and maybe a head down here if it's a child, another one up here if it's another adult. Then they've got to put in the shoulders, and they try to draw the arms in, the jacket, and whatever it might be. They try and create this perfect human form. Basically, if you don't do that, if you just put in a shape of a head, and if you see any of my videos, I scribble. I just like to scribble forms and shapes. And these are my figures. They represent figures when I'm doing a drawing that contains figures, a street scene or something like that. Let's make this person a little bigger there, and we'll make this one a little bigger too. But we have two figures and two more figures slightly further away with a child involved, and that's all you need to draw. You can draw very, very random shapes like this, and there are many artists out there that just don't even go this far. And I could name sort of Alvaro Castell. If I said that right, sorry Alvaro if I've mispronounced your name, but he will do almost that, and that's a figure. That's his figure. That's his way of describing a figure in his paintings, and they will turn out beautiful when he finishes the painting itself. And if you wanted to paint those in, just literally tap in some heads and then some bodies, and just come down here and use the shapes that you've done to create the figures that you want to create. Put a little bit of red into this one. Now, when it comes to suggestion, this is what this is all about. The whole of this exercise is about you suggesting to the viewer of your painting that these are people in your painting. Nothing more, nothing less. You haven't drawn faces, heads, eyes, noses, jackets, trousers, or shoes. You have merely created a little shape somewhere on here, and because it looks as it should do, as it looks like a human form, then you can get away with that quite easily. I'm just blocking in some of these pictures, these little drawings here. This is my little Alvaro little Alvaro suggestion. Basically, he would do it far better. But it gives you an idea, you know. He will just put his figure in, and he will just do a couple of legs like that, and there's his figure done and sorted. So you can be as really sort of abstract in your information as this, or you can sort of take a little bit more care like that and try and create more figures. You can make your figures from just blobs and shapes. Let's just come in here and let's do this. Let's do a shape, a blob, and a couple of other taps like this. That looks nothing at all. I keep picking up some dirt and paint on my fingers. I do apologize for that. But you've got a few random taps with my brush. So I'm going to put in a little bit of color here, and let's just give these people some faces. Now we've got heads. We can make many or as few as we wish to. So now we've done that, let's just come back in with some other color. Let's just play around with that now and just give them some feet on our people. And all of a sudden, those little random marks that I put in to begin with now have human bodies. I hope they are. Human bodies and legs and etc, etc. Now, yes, that paint's bleeding down. It's not a problem. If you find that you don't want that, then just come back in and just drop in a little more color. There you go. Now, that could be a bunch of guys. In fact, these look like shorts. They could be footballers or something like that. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you're going to change their colours or their clothing potential, as it were, depending on the situation that you're putting them in your picture for. So there's just a bunch of guys. I think they're just having a stag night or something. Doesn't matter. They're there and it's all fun. Now, the idea also is that you can be very, very lost. So you can bring your figures in. Let's just bring a few over here. 1, 2, 3. Doesn't matter how many, does it? And let's just bring in a darker value on some here. So let's just make this one like that. And it's got a nice feel to it. Now you notice I actually haven't added any corresponding shadows, cast shadows. Now that really is a great way of anchoring your figure to Mother Earth. And it does really work out very, very well to do that. But not every day is a sunny day. Not every day are you going to see wonderful placed cast shadows in your painting. So you can't always get away with that. So I'm just doing these as figures at the moment. And what I'm trying to do on this one is just leave a little bit of white space here and there just to suggest a highlight from the sun. So there's little gaps between the figures, and that denotes shoulders, shapes and other forms. Now let's go back to doing a random mark here. Where are we? Let's just adding in. I'm just having fun with this, so I do hope that you guys are picking something up from this. I really do, because I'm enjoying it. And the thing about this is that we often have, and I keep saying this to all of you, that we often have paper that on a painting that just hasn't gone our way. And instead of throwing it away and dumping it and, you know, just wasting that, then there's nothing stopping us from turning it over and doing lots of practice. Or old sketchbooks, old bits of paper that are in pads that you didn't quite get to the end of it, but it's sitting there, needs using up. Then why not do this? Because you're not going to use your prime paper, you're not going to use your best paper for this job. But what you do want to do is to practice. And the more you do this, the more you practice with this sort of thing, the better you're going to get, the more instantaneous these figures. I'm counting the legs now, I may miss some out. But that's all I'm doing, just doing legs and bodies and shapes. And so the more you do it, the more you get used to it, the better it will become. Now, so far, I've put very, very little information into telling you what these figures are doing. And so that is another idea behind this sort of painting, is to create little stories, little narratives for your people to be involved with, you know. So it's just going to add in a bit of weight to the bottom there, along there, quite like that. It's quite an abstract form, all linked together with little gaps at the top. and they create lovely shapes and forms as groups of people. So let's look now then at, let's give some of our people more than just walking toward or walking away in groups. Let's just talk about maybe somebody that's bent over like that. And I'm not going to try and do too much information. I just want to suggest we've got somebody here that's bending over. It might be putting out, I don't know what they're doing. Doesn't really matter, does it? But there you are, somebody bending over. It might be for their dog. There you go, little dog. All right, just somebody bending over for their dog. It could be quite happily somebody, let's put somebody, I don't know what this is. I'm not going to say what I'm going to do because it may turn out differently. There's another person's head, and I'm going to put, and I'm going to use, let's say, let's go for some viridian colour on there. And so we've got somebody here, and what are they going to be doing? Well, I'm not quite sure really. There we go. We're just going to see. Bring their legs down anyway, and maybe, there you go, let's give him a bit of a pole, a bit of a rod, and a little bit of a hat maybe, and he's standing there, he's fishing. I really didn't know until that last second there what I was going to be doing with that one. But you get the idea that all I'm doing is just stuff straight out of my head. I'm not really thinking about this too much. I know that some of you probably just said, yeah, that's fairly obvious. But the idea is not what I'm doing, it's the fact that I'm actually doing it. Okay, now I'm using the belly of the brush. See what I'm doing? I'm just tapping down on the belly of the brush. So it's literally, if I can demonstrate it on my hand this way, I put the point down and I've just let the belly come down and deposit a mark on the paper. That's all I've done with that one. And from there I can just drag out the legs and create the different forms. So a very, very simple application of creating some figures very, very quickly. And there's a little fella. There we go. And just creating some very, very quick figures in your watercolor painting and just seeing what happens. Let's just do that again. Let's use, let's put some, in fact, let's not put the heads in to start with. Let's just come in with a nice blue color, blue violet color. And let's just repeat this whole idea of putting in some taps, tap, tap, tap. A little bit more water, it's a little bit weak solution. There we go, let's just come back in, tap, 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 like that. 4 people, 5 people, I can't count. In fact, that's quite useful. Let's just put another 1 or 2 like that are suggesting people in this group further away. So let's just come back and let's look very quickly. And I'm going to put in a bit of red, bit of green. So I want to darken down some of the faces. And so I put a head on there and one smaller one there. See, that's wrong. That should be up there. That head and these heads, that should be down. So that's my mistake, but never mind. We'll work with that one. And my heads are way too big on those distant figures. So I'm going to have to change that slightly. That's going to bring that up there. And these figures are all now friends. They're all in the same area. They're not small at all. They're much closer. They caught up. Never mind. Doesn't matter. It's all in the doing. And that's what I am trying to suggest to you. And that doesn't really matter what you're doing. If you're painting like figures or a street scene or a certain type of building, if you feel that you're not able to complete that happily with what skills you have, then may I suggest that instead of drawing it all out and painting it to the nth degree and only to get to the part that you're not sure about and ruining it because you weren't sure how to create or paint that, then it would be worth you taking the time and spare bits of paper and just copy and play and practice with the bits that you are totally unsure about. It's that practice that will get you through the whole of the painting to a satisfactory conclusion. And I think that really is quite important. So if you've got a nice scene with a beautiful tree in it and it's not working, or you don't think you're going to be able to do it, then take an odd bit of paper and just practice tons of these trees, as many as you can find the time to do, because at the end of the day, every time you do that, you will become very, very familiar with that subject, and in the end, it will not cause you the problem, and therefore you won't have wasted all that time making a beautiful drawing only to have to do it all over again because you messed up in the painting stage. I tell my students always to take the time out and practice anything in their painting that they are really not comfortable with and not happy about, so that when they do come to it, then of course they have a much greater idea and familiarity with the actual thing that they intend to paint. So let's just kind of put in a few legs here, my figures. I'm just using odd little bits of colour. I'm not really even thinking about that. I'm just putting in shapes and forms that I think will work for my people. And again, if you've got a colour in there and you don't like it, then just come in and drop in some stronger pigment. If you drop it in too loose, and I've done this before, let's do it again. If you drop this in too loose, too much water to what's already there, you can see how that water is pushing that greenish pigment ahead of it, and that will cause you unsightly blooms or cauliflower. So if you're going to add colour in, then come in with colour that is actually thicker in proportion to water, and therefore it won't do that. It will not push that colour ahead of itself. Right, so, okay. So there's some more people. Very, very random looks. Nothing in particular. Okay, predominantly all our figures have been appearing to walk toward us with these lovely colours for the heads. You can always add in hair. While it's wet, don't do it once it's dry, you'll have hard marks. But let's do a few people now that appear to be walking away from us. Let's put another one there. And I'm just going to come in with some yellow. Quite a nice Indian yellow. And I'm just going to come in with some very, very lovely forms. Add in a little bit of blue to that. Not too much because it will turn quite a green colour. Just suggesting. And I'm allowing some of these shapes to relate to each other so that we have got children maybe either side of their parents. Let's join this one up to this one. I did this on another sheet, but it is just quite a nice idea to have a little family group. Even that yellow that's bled into that green suggests that this lady is got an arm around this gentleman here. I'm making that assumption. I hope that's right. Well, I'm the painter, so it must be right because I said it was. But then I'm just going to put in some suggestions of them walking. Now, often you see people put in a longer back leg if they're walking and just a little bend and a shortened front leg to suggest the movement. Like so, and we're going to put one in there and just a little bit of movement on there. So now we've got a group, our family group moving. Very, very simple colours, very simple forms, nothing too much going on, but they are nonetheless people. So let's come in and let's just put in fact, what I'm going to do is going to wet up the number 2 rigger, and I'm just going to come in with a blue violety colour. And you could use no end of colours, cobalt, alizarin, you could use a bit of neutral tint, a little bit of light red and blue, it doesn't matter. What I'm trying to suggest is a sort of situation where we've got lots of people in the far distance. Now remember what I said before, is that the idea is we've got heads all on about the same sort of level, but all I'm trying to do is almost stick people, and I'm leaving little gaps between some of them, connecting others up. There's a group of 2 there, a little suggestion of feet. And this is a group of people that are a long way off. You can't see too much what's going on. And we can actually add to that. I'm going to put another one in there and just connect some of that to other parts of it. I'm going to put a small one in there. And take a lot of paint out, and you can start now putting very faint forms in, like this. And they are much further away. Heads are on the same sort of level, but these forms now are way off. But all of a sudden, with a few marks with a brush, we've got a whole raft of people in the distance there. And they're nothing more than suggestive taps. That's all it is. I'm using our knowledge of our subject, our knowledge of understanding what the human form looks like. We all know what other animals look like in distance because we're so familiar. It's the same with the human form. We know instantly when somebody is way off in the distance and we're walking towards them, or them us, and we have a massive crowd of people forming here. Now you could actually bring one a lot closer. If you could suddenly change the whole idea, the strongest colours really would be left for these ones here, but I could suddenly put in somebody fresh to change the whole dimension of this painting. There, somebody's much closer. In fact, I can use that person as a directional line. I can now bring in, let's bring in another person, much closer, all in the same group, like that, and we can put that person next to another person. Still too far away to suggest too much colour. There we are. So we've got people walking to us or away from us, but towards this crowd of people up here. Could be all joining up for a little meet out somewhere, but it's just adding tons and tons of people to your painting very, very quickly without having to think about it too much. So let's just come in with something very, very simple. We're going to stay with the rigger, just putting a few heads in like that, and I'm just going to come in very much the same way as I did before, using the belly of the rigger. But my figures, because the rigger is quite a slender brush, is going to leave lots of different shapes, but more pencil-like shapes, as it were, not going to be as thick as the ones over here or wherever it was that I did them. So we have some figures. Now these ones do look along further away. That's not a problem with that. These ones, however, are quite heavy on their bodies. So let's just bring that and make those a little stronger and make those appear to be much closer to us. So there we got another person here. And let's just bring that one down like so. So now we've got 2 lots of 3 people. I haven't, as I said, put any cast shadows in, but it would be very simple just to add in little shadows to some of these figures, like so. And all of a sudden, we've got a lot more going on. I didn't do it in all these others because I wanted to get more illustrations in for you, but you can actually do this so easily, just putting in little shadows. This is still wet. If you've got people that are walking, do not put a shadow from there because it's only the area where they're on the ground, as it were. Let's put some on these folks here. Just gives them the idea that they are standing on the ground and yeah, sort of they're attached to the earth, as it were. That's still a lot of paint in there. But let's just put our fisherman in, and of course we've got that fishing rod. Just very, very simply put in, but you get the idea. I am running this to an end now. I'm just having a little play around here This is where my finger I started the picking up paint here, but all of a sudden I can see, you know, we've got figures here. We don't have to worry about messing up with that paint. Let's just put in some heads, shall we? Let's put them all on the same height, maybe like that. And we can explore these shapes a little more. So we can put in like so. I'm just scribbling. You remember what I did up here somewhere when I was scribbling these figures? I'm scribbling with this brush. I use my rigger sometimes very much like a pencil because it does lend itself to becoming very, very free with the scribbling like that. It's got a nice waist on that lady. Let's just thicken that out a little bit. And, you know, you don't need to do any more than that. Now, let's just take our number 5 again, and let's just come across here with, well, let's go here. And let's just put in a few shapes now. Put a bit of different colour in there. Maybe a stronger blue in there. Just a whole random pattern. And it's not unlike some of my landscape abstracts that you've seen me do in the past. And it's no different to that. But these are a group of figures like any of these others. And that's all it is. Hopefully, I will convey that. I'm going to keep all their heads in the same position. There we are. That one looks like he's got a cut through his head. Let's kind of come in with a bit of dark colour just to give some of them darker hair, maybe. Quite green hair, it doesn't really matter what colour I've got going on at the moment. I'm going to come in with a little bit of yellow into some of these. Just adding the same idea, but this time we are adding a little bit more colour into our painting. A little bit more suggestion. So these could be figures that quite happily are closer to us because they're not that way off, not far off in the distance. They are much closer, and so we can see them. This one, to me, you won't see it on camera. This one looks like he's looking up. Almost the grain in the paper has given him a pair of eyes. It's that little bit of green in the red that's actually darkened up and given it some features. Totally random, I assure you. But let's just bring some of this paint down so it doesn't pull and give them some legs. Now, I think we're pretty much done with this because it's going to get too repetitive. And I'm not doing too good with these legs. Got to be said, how many have I given this one? Good Lord. I'm losing the plot, people. It's got a couple up through the back here and maybe some there. So to help out the fact that they do look like they're a bunch of misfits, let's just try and qualify some of these legs. Let's just change what we see on this center one maybe and thicken that leg up and give that person a different look, different shape. There we go. I don't know how many people I put in here anyway, but you get the idea, I hope. Let's put some red into this one. Okay, this one, I gotta say, is struggling. Not lie to you. It's not going quite as well as I first hoped. But what can I do about that? So let's just see what we can do about that. Now the painting as a whole is still very, very wet, but I have messed up this shape quite easily. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the head on these and just make fewer figures like that. You can put one on the end there. So now we've got 4 people, and all I'm going to do is use some stronger colour and change out what you see, I hope, and create new people. I said I'd keep that one, so let's just do that. change this one. And the one on the end here, looking a little bit like Beetleborgs, if anybody knows that film, the Galaxy one. And I'm going to put in another colour here. So hopefully that is becoming a bit of a mess, gotta say. I'm not going to lie to you, but I'm working hard to change that and just lifting a little bit of that pigment out and a little bit coming out into there. Now we've got bodies without legs, so hopefully now we can change this to be a little better when it reads correctly. Dropping a little bit more blue in. This was a rescue attempt and it may or may not have worked, but it doesn't matter. It's all part of the practicing, learning curve, isn't it? There we go. Nothing more. I've tried to show you some varied ways of applying figures on a landscape and creating forms that, you know, with very little work, like this one here, very, very little work, create people. You start creating shapes that we recognize as figures. And you can add these to any landscape, any street scene, beach scene. Doesn't matter if you've got a whole load of people, kiddies on the beach, you can do that too and just have a whole heap of fun. But the underlying thing with all of this is, please take the time out to really practice this, because you will enjoy it so much more when you come to your painting and can just say, you know, I need a figure there, let's just put one in right there. Done, sorted. We have our figure. Now that wasn't hard, and it would be that much easier if you guys, as I say, and keep banging on about practicing. All the paintings in the world will never be enough, I assure you. I've been doing it for all of my life and I'm a very old person now. I've been professional since the mid-1980s. And I've been painting all my life as a child upwards from before then. And I'm still learning. I still learn. I still do something. When even doing this, I do something and I think, you know, that's never happened before. That is awesome. I love that so much. And I think from that point of view, if you practice, these awesome things really will start happening for you. And I put this one in like somebody's just running forward, maybe. Yeah, you know, you do something and something alters in the way that you created it, and you think, wow, that really did work out so nicely, and you remember that for another time. So anyway, enough. I think that you've suffered these figures enough today, so I hope you've enjoyed that. I am going to take a break. My voice is starting to go on me. And yeah, I'll catch each and every one of you in the next video next week. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun and a lot of pleasure just playing around with some scribbles and doodles on odd pieces of paper. And I do hope that you got something from it. And I think the message that I was trying to convey is that you didn't have to be complex. You didn't have to sort of go into detailed drawing. You need to be a simple observer of life in general and use up and practice on all those odd bits of papers that you have. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you did, and I hope you got something from it, then please give it a thumbs up and give it a like. And if you're not a subscriber and haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. The whole of those actions and any comments that you put underneath will really show the algorithm that runs YouTube that I am a channel worth helping and worth promoting to a wider audience, and I really would appreciate that. Subscribe and click the bell icon at the same time, lets you know when I upload new video. And also, if you want to reach out for more, there is no reference to be put over on my Patreon, but check it out anyway. There's well over 200 videos on there now, and there are many of them becoming more and more totally exclusive for a minimum of 6 months of their lives on Patreon. So well worth checking it out. Have a look at it, see if you like what you see, and if you want to get involved, I'd love to welcome you as my latest patron. And on top of that, if you want to reach out and do a little bit more, then I have a brand new course over on my website. Go check it out. It's all about painting skies in watercolor, and it is on offer. Well, I suppose it's on offer depending when you're watching this video, but it's on offer right now for only £67 instead of the normal £97. I get it right. So there is a £30 saving, and it's well worth getting involved with. So if you want to do that, love to see you sign up and help you out on that course over the next few months, or however fast you want to do it. So until that time, I'm going to get ready for a new video now, and I'm going to wish each and every one of you happiness, safety, happy painting wherever you are. Enjoy. Take care. Bye bye.